What happens when Spider-Man goes back to basics in New York City, and the city actually feels small enough for one kid in a mask to handle? I'm Leah, feeling super curious today.
And I'm Garrett, excited to explore this one.
Welcome to Laid Back Learning with Leah and Garrett.
Topic on the table today: Spider-Man Brand New Day, the 2026 Marvel Cinematic Universe film that recenters Peter Parker on the streets of New York. Okay, quick confession. When I was a kid, I tried to make my own web shooters out of a hot glue gun and a bunch of rubber bands. It was like the least effective gadget ever. I mostly glued my fingers together. But this movie's do-it-yourself Spider-Man totally pinged that part of my brain. He sews the suit, he rigs his own tools, he listens to a police scanner in a tiny apartment. It's the exact vibe little me wanted, just, with far fewer glue-related injuries.
So, big picture. Spider-Man Brand New Day plants Peter Parker back on the ground. 4 years after No Way Home, people remember Spider-Man, but not that he is Peter. Doctor Strange's spell erased Peter from individuals' memories. He's on his own in New York, taking calls from a police scanner and dealing with neighborhood threats. Kevin Feige, who runs Marvel Studios, called this the moment we finally see a prosperous Spider-Man in the MCU. No cosmic crises, just a hero in a modest space doing the work.
It's like ditching a luxury car for a bike. The luxury car is the Avengers jet, and the bike is the rooftops, fire escapes, and a busted zipper on your suit. And it fits Tom Holland's take here. He leaned into a more mature Peter, who is basically full-time Spider-Man. The cost of that life is part of the story: purpose, sacrifice, mental health. The movie asks, if you save everyone else, what are you doing for yourself?
And even with familiar MCU faces around, it stays street level. Frank Castle, the Punisher, is in play. That's John Bernthal, known for a gritty take on the character. Bruce Banner, played by Mark Ruffalo, shows up as a professor at Empire State University before things take a turn. But the canvas stays grounded. Rooftops, waterways, back alleys, Spider-Man's New York, not the universe's battlefield.
There's also a clean DIY reset. With Stark Tech gone, Peter builds a fabricator, which is basically a beefed-up sewing machine crossed with a 3D printer for suit fixes and upgrades. He even codes a new AI assistant named EV, voiced by Naomi Watts. It's homebrew, not a hand-me-down. And the new suit pulls from John Romita Sr.'s classic proportions while nodding to the Maguire and Garfield suits. Holland literally tried on those old suits to get the fit and silhouette right.
On the life front, MJ and Ned are at MIT, living their own story. Zendaya and Jacob Batalon return. They remember encounters with Spider-Man, but not that Peter was their friend. Ned even built a Spidey tracker app to log sightings, which is such a sweet, slightly aching way to fill the void he feels. There's a new boyfriend in MJ's life, played by Manas Fandi. That adds a human knot for Peter to untangle emotionally. Let's unpack how this came together behind the scenes. In 2019, Sony and Disney had a very public hiccup over sharing Spider-Man. For a bit, it looked like Marvel Studios would be out. Fan pressure was intense. Within weeks, Kevin Feige and longtime Spider-Man producer Amy Pascal reached a new agreement so No Way Home could proceed in the MCU, and they left the door open for more.
From there, the next chapter simmered. Tom Holland kept saying he'd return only if the story did right by the character. Destin Daniel Cretton, the filmmaker behind Shang-Chi, came on board after stepping off an Avengers directing gig when schedules shifted. He and writers Chris McKenna and Eric Sommers shaped a grounded concept. Justin Kuritzkis, a playwright-screenwriter, did rewrites with Cretton, even though McKenna and Sommers kept final credit.
There was a pause during the 2023 Writers Guild of America strike. Development resumed afterward. Holland actually asked Sony to delay filming 6 months so he could shoot The Odyssey first, and that extra time deepened the script, by all accounts, locked in the tone. Filming kicked off in 2025 with Glasgow doubling for Queens, Brett Pollack as cinematographer, and production using Pinewood Studios plus a purpose-built Queens backlot focused on rooftops.
There was one scary moment. Holland had a mild concussion during a stunt in September 2025. A short pause, then back at it. They wrapped by December. Editors Nat Sanders, Gina Sansom, and Harry Yoon took a near 3-hour assembly down to about 144 minutes. It released in July 2026 as part of MCU Phase 6, and critics dug the reset vibe.
Now, in-universe texture. Peter's powers evolve in ways that initially scare him. He experiences surges where his vision blacks out, his senses spike, his agility increases, and he develops organic webbing from his wrists. Organic webbing means his body makes the webs, not mechanical shooters. That echoes Tobey Maguire's version and marks a clean break from Stark tech dependency. The change draws from the other, a comics arc, where Peter undergoes a kind of frightening metamorphosis.
Villain roster is intentionally beatable in a day or two. Mac Gargan shows up as Scorpion in armor with a mechanized tail. Michael Mando is back. Tombstone arrives as a near-indestructible crime boss. Marvin Jones III plays him, bringing that heavy presence. The Hand returns under a new on-screen leader, played by martial artist Fan Xiaoshuang. The Hand is a ninja crime syndicate in Marvel lore, plus quick hits like Boomerang, Tarantula, and Ramrod. Tarantula's suit uses straps instead of a big spider emblem, so silhouettes read clean in motion.
Law and order elements matter too. The Department of Damage Control, or DODC, is actively policing superpowered folks. Bill Metzger, portrayed by Tremel Tillman, leads a unit that recruits Spider-Man against an invisible threat only he can sense and is oddly immune to. The DODC uses weapons reverse-engineered from alien tech, like Chitauri and Sakaran gear. That's the cleanup economy of the MCU in action. And the movie gives us Jean DeWolf, a principled NYPD detective played by Liza Colon-Zayas, as a grounded ally.
On the Punisher front, tone was a tightrope. John Bernthal brings Frank Castle back, but within PG-13 boundaries. They use clever gags to keep his voice intact. Spider-Man sometimes webs Frank's mouth when he starts to swear. Their dynamic moves from antagonism to a prickly big brother, little brother rhythm. And yes, the battle van from the comics finally appears, plus Frank lives on a converted industrial barge houseboat called Golden Girl, which is such a perfect solitary New York choice.
Bruce Banner is teaching quantum mechanics at Empire State University while wearing an inhibitor that keeps the Hulk at bay. An inhibitor is a device that suppresses his gamma transformation. But things slide into a savage Hulk state, the less controlled, more monstrous version of Hulk. Visually, the filmmakers lean away from Ruffalo's face during rages to make it feel dangerous. There's a moment where Spider-Man uses Shocker's gauntlet, a vibroblast glove, as an improvised tool against the Hulk, which sells Peter's scrappy survival skills.
Action language is tactile. Stunt coordinator Peng Zhang, who worked on Shang-Chi, leans hard into practical fights, parkour, and even wingsuit-style camera references for web swinging. Some sequences were shot bespoke for Screen X, the panoramic sidewall projection format, and others were planned for IMAX, big images, big sound. There's also a villain whose power is body hopping. Instead of heavy CGI, choreographer Nathan Kim built a physical vocabulary of contortions, so you can read possession in a human way.
Design details carry the theme. Peter's EV-AI is light touch and supportive. The fabricator makes repairs feel handmade. His spider sense even gets a new sound cue to put us inside his head, dropping the jokey Peter Tingle vibe. The suit's mask fits tighter, the belt rides lower, and the proportions feel Romita classic. Meanwhile, the production built a Queens backlot with rooftops and water towers, which gives a lived-in geography to his nightly patrols.
MCU connective tissue is there, but not overbearing. Sheila Rivera appears from the street-level shows, and Yelena Belova, played by Florence Pugh, pops in ahead of Avengers Doomsday. A filmed scene with Claire Temple, the nurse who helps heroes in the TV corner, was cut in the final edit to keep pacing tight. Marketing held back certain mysteries, like Keith David's role and the identity of one person who still remembers Peter post-spell. That reveal stayed under wraps pre-release.
Reception-wise, critics and audiences highlighted the mature tone and the return to neighborhood stakes. It stands on its own within Phase 6, not just as a stepping stone to the next Avengers event. That autonomy lets the movie actually resolve Peter's internal chapter, rather than pausing mid-sentence for a crossover. All right, here's where it gets really interesting. There were persistent rumors about alien symbiotes and Mephisto. Symbiotes are those sentient, goo-like organisms from space, like the one that becomes Venom. Mephisto is a demonic figure from Marvel Comics, often tied to supernatural bargains. I think adding either could have layered in temptation and identity in a big way. The story already wrestles with Peter losing himself, so a symbiote amplifying that darkness would have mirrored his internal struggle.
I get the appeal, but I kind of love that they held the line. Street level was the thesis. Once you bring in Mephisto or a symbiote, even if it is thematically tidy, the ceiling on the story jumps. Then you risk the Avengers question again. Why is no one else showing up if the devil is in town? Keeping it to crews like The Hand, the DODC, and bosses like Tombstone preserves that neighborhood frame.
But why not treat a symbiote as a psychological horror element and keep the stakes personal? One suit, one kid, one city. You can do body horror without making it a global crisis. We already have that physical language of possession through contortion. That toolset could translate nicely to a creeping alien influence, too.
True, and the choreography idea is perfect for that. My hesitance is timing. Brand New Day is literally about Peter rediscovering self without crutches. If you toss a symbiote on him now, the headline becomes the suit, not the kid. Let him rebuild first. Then, maybe, when he knows who he is again, you test that with the black suit. Mephisto, for me, is a separate lane entirely. This film's grounded lens would probably bend under that weight.
Fair. And just to keep the record straight, those rumors were never confirmed in marketing anyway. Same with chatter about Daredevil returning. That was downplayed before release. So the movie committed to its tone and stuck the landing it promised. Pop culture angle, rapid fire. The opening montage recreates famous comic covers, from Amazing Fantasy 15 to Amazing Spider-Man 129. That is literally Spider-Man's debut and the Punisher's first appearance. Some shots were captured at about 420 frames per second to freeze those poses, and the organic webs nod to the Tobey Maguire era, carrying that nostalgia right into a new status quo.
It also lines up with the street-level tone of the current TV corner. Think Daredevil, Born Again, and the Punisher special, even if characters cameo lightly. That crosstalk keeps the neighborhood MCU coherent without making any single project feel like homework for the next. Counterfactual time. What if Sony and Disney never renegotiated in 2019 after that split? No Marvel Studios guidance on No Way Home. The Holland run might have exited the MCU right there. Without that bridge, Brand New Day does not happen in this form, and you lose this Spider-Man, Punisher, Hulk triangle in a shared continuity. The tone reset to Rooftops still could exist in a different Sony-only track, but you probably do not get Banner teaching at ESU or Yelena's connective cameo.
And the specific gifts of this version vanish. The DODC's alien tech arsenal is a direct MCU byproduct. Take that away, and the enforcement angle looks different. The trust to play with Punisher's battle van inside a PG-13 Spider-Man story likely depends on collaboration with the team shepherding him on the TV side. Even Peter's reset relies on No Way Home's spell. Without that, the emotional architecture of people remembering Spider-Man but not Peter goes away, which is the heartache powering Brand New Day. All right, that ties it up nicely.
So there we have it. Stay curious and keep exploring.